Dominique Alexander did it yesterday at that press conference. He made comparisons to, for example, Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah, that has to be the most asinine thing that you can even try to express. Kyle Rittenhouse was attacked. He was chased down, cornered. A guy tried to take his weapon. He shot him. Another person tried to use a deadly weapon against him, which was a skateboard at the time. He ended up shooting him, and another person pulled a gun on him. And what else could he have done but protect himself lawfully in a place that he belonged? This is a very different situation. You have a young man who brought a knife to a track meet, which is already illegal, bringing a knife on the premise of a sporting event. And then you have the person, obviously, with the evidence that we have so far, is premeditating a stabbing because he has his hand in his bag and he's telling them, touch me and see what happens. You only need a split second to develop premeditation. So if you have a plan that you're going to use a weapon against somebody before you use the weapon, that's premeditation. And not utilizing equal force against a person is another uphill battle for him. Someone pushing you does not necessitate you to use deadly force against them. In no world is that legal, especially not in the state of Texas.
Let me ask you a question, in your opinion, Brandon, of Dominique Alexander. That press conference, I think we both agree, was absolutely appalling. He managed to butcher not just regular English grammar, but he managed to butcher the facts, for example, of Kyle Rittenhouse case. How does someone with not just his inabilities, but his criminal record become a voice in the public eye for someone like the family of Karmelo Anthony?
Will, this is just a continuation of the manipulation from black leaders to just pimp out these families for money. This man is not qualified whatsoever, and I can put my life on it that the defense team is literally want to throw up thinking about this guy litigating or putting information out in the public, and he's an idiot. He can't even say defense. What did he say? Self-defense. The other day he said self-defense. He don't even know how to say self-defense. And then also, I think what his objective is, and people may be missing this, is that they want to get the public to be on their side in order to taint the jury pool. Because as much disinformation they can put out there, as much sympathy they can garnish from the surrounding public, when it's time to do jury selections, they're going to have a lot of people that have sympathy towards Karmelo Anthony, which could create a hung jury situation. But this gentleman who has a criminal record is not a fair and good representation for this family.
All right, guys, so we got to follow up on the viral story involving Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf, okay? Karmelo Anthony, black teenager that stabbed Austin Metcalf, the white teenager, in the chest, in the heart, over a seat at a track meet. And now Karmelo Anthony is facing murder charges for this stabbing, okay? And you have the so-called pro-blacks and the woke revolutionaries. They come out here and they're now defending Karmelo Anthony, claiming that this is self-defense, okay? And what I want to talk about here today is the woke activists that are representing Karmelo Anthony, because my argument has been that these people are not supporting Karmelo Anthony because they actually feel like he's innocent, right? Like they feel like this is an actual legitimate case of self-defense. No, they are supporting Karmelo Anthony simply because he's black and he stabbed a white teenager in the chest, right? He killed a white teenager. And it's just funny because they accuse everybody else of trying to make this about race. But when you actually listen to these people talk, they're the ones that are telling you, yes, we are defending him because of race. We're not defending him because we actually understand what self-defense is, or that we actually believe that he was acting in self-defense, which as of right now, there is no evidence and proof, in my opinion, that Karmelo has a strong self-defense case. Every single defense attorney that I've listened to, the credible ones, all of them say, hey, this is a weak case of self-defense. There's just no justification for using a knife, a deadly weapon, in a situation that did not require deadly force, okay? Karmelo Anthony, there's no proof that he was jumped by the Metcalf twins, okay? There was no jumping. He wasn't being punched and beat up at the time, right? That's not what happened, okay? Despite the woke revolutionaries continuing to spread these rumors, false rumors, that Karmelo was jumped. Again, there's no evidence of that as of right now, but apparently there's video out there. We will see. My mind could be changed if the video comes out and shows otherwise, right? Or if there's other evidence that comes out that proves that Karmelo was jumped. But as of right now, no evidence, no proof. So again, a lot of these people, they are simply just supporting this because, again, Karmelo Anthony is black. And that is what the woke representation for Karmelo Anthony is going to admit in this interview with Roland Martin. As some people are looking into his background, right? People are starting to notice that this guy is very sketchy, right? In my opinion, I think that he is essentially trying to be Al Sharpton Jr., right? That's what's going on here. He's gotten into ambulance chasing because he has a very, very, very shady background and record. Like, for example, in 2009, he pleaded guilty to causing serious bodily injury to his then girlfriend's 2-year-old child. 2011, he was arrested for stealing a car while on probation. 2013, he was convicted of felony forgery. And 2019, there were domestic violence accusations, okay? And he has also been found guilty for felony theft, okay, related to a failed business deal. So again, this guy, long history, and again, it's not pretty, including, again, domestic violence allegations, okay? And this dude is an activist. He's supposed to be against violence against women, but at the same time, he's been accused of this.
Face of Dallas activism against police brutality and claims of racial discrimination is now facing a claim of domestic violence. Steve Pickett joining us live from Irving with more on Dominique Alexander.
We know there is a police investigation right now, Doug. Dominique Alexander telling me by phone today he had a dispute with the mother of his children. He said he didn't hit or hurt anyone. However, for whatever reason, that woman ended up in the hospital's ER here.
That is a sense of betrayal to me.
Alinka Green stood with Dominique Alexander just 2 days ago. He received a call this morning, learning of a police investigation into alleged domestic abuse involving Alexander and the mother of his children.
From what I understood, it was very violent to the point to where she had to go to the hospital.
You can't claim to fight evil and then stand aside when someone that you're friends with commits such an injustice.
Activist Jeff Hood, the same man who led with Alexander the Dallas protest against police brutality on July 7, 2016, when 5 police officers were shot, he said he saw injuries on the body of Alexander's girlfriend on yesterday. Took her to a DPD substation to file a family violence complaint.
Steve, it wasn't 2 weeks ago that we were out in the streets in Deep Ellum protesting, marching, screaming, shouting against violence against women. And here we are today seeing one of the chief leaders of that protest having committed a despicable act of violence against his partner.
Alexander, by phone this afternoon, denied any physical attack against the woman. He called it a family dispute.
It certainly hurts the movement when accusations like this are directed at leadership, and that's why we're held to a high responsibility.
Yeah, so again, this is the type of individual that the Karmelo Anthony family has decided to represent them, right? And again, he's going to explain his role that he has with the family. And again, why he's doing this. Again, he's going to say the obvious part out loud that these people refuse to admit, that this is not about right and wrong. It's not about self-defense. It's simply about Karmelo being black and the Metcalf twins being white, which means that they're bad, right? And Karmelo's good because he's black, and if you're white, you're bad, right? That is essentially the argument that this person is going to make. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Racist Charlie Kirk sent out with the video from the news conference, okay? He sent this, that racist Charlie Kirk sent out with the video from the news conference, okay? He sent this tweet out here, all right? And so you see him attacking the family and attacking activists because of what was stated. What does Kirk say? Insanity. Dominique Alexander, who represents Karmelo Anthony, just attacked Austin Metcalf's father, Jeff, for attending a press conference held by the Anthony family, calling his presence, quote, a disrespect to the dignity of his son, unquote. Kirk tweets, this is revolting. I responded to Kirk. I said, I'm curious. If the Metcalf family held a news conference and Karmelo Anthony's dad showed up at that news conference, would you be saying the same thing? Joining us right now is the activist in Dallas, Dominique Alexander. Dominique, glad to have you back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. It's been some time. So, first of all, you have Charlie Kirk saying you represent the family. You're not a lawyer, correct?
Not at all.
So,
Not at all.
So explain for the public your role in this case.
So the Next Generation Action Network, of course, is founded here in Dallas, Texas, in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex since 2014. We are the advocacy arm. Our organization is an advocacy-led organization. We are not the attorneys. The attorney for this case is Mike Howard. We do the advocacy around making sure that people are aware of this situation and supporting and how to support this family and to ensure that this family's rights are not violated.
AKA they're the grifters, right? I mean, that's essentially what he's saying, right? We make sure that we blow this story up, that we try to get as much money, try to raise as much money as possible on behalf of the family so that they can take their cut, right? That's essentially what his job is, right? That's his business model, okay? Ambulance chase, let's find some very racially charged thing, right? And let's go out there and advocate for the family, right? We're going to come out here and play this whole we're pro-black thing, right? We're just trying to protect black folks thing, okay? They're going to fundraise off that because everybody that doesn't agree is racist, okay? And we got to fight against whites, right? So we're going to raise a ton of money. And again, one of the ways that they are raising money is through lies, right? And I think one of the things that really annoys me about this story the most is that a lot of these people continue to boohoo, whine, and cry about the alleged lies about the GoFundMe and what the family is using the money for. However, the GoFundMe has been updated to include that the money is not just going to be used for legal fees. Okay. Again, why is that? It's because guys like him, they got to take some off the top. This is why in the fine print, you have the consulting fee, right? Who do you think is going to get that consulting fee? Okay. I think it's pretty clear what's going on here, right? It's pretty obvious what is happening here. So they're going to boohoo, whine, and cry about, misinformation about the GoFundMe. But if you read the fine print, they make it very clear. Yeah, we ain't spending all this on legal fees, okay? This is going to go towards a lot of other stuff. Again, mainly this dude's pockets, right? That's where a lot of the money's going.
And the things that are legal matters are handled by the lawyers.
What's crazy here is, so check this out. Here's a tweet right here. This person said, I did a Twitter search for Karmelo Anthony till up to 2 days ago after the incident. I could only find one post from a black account defending him, but there are countless posts from whites making it a race issue. Whites racialize everything, then cry when black people take sides. And then this is a scroll of tweets that this person actually pulled. And when this story first happened, they called Karmelo Anthony a thug. It was all sorts of names. They were saying that Aaron Metcalf was this football star. He was this bright young man, talented, high grade point average, all of that. But Karmelo Anthony is not a thug. Karmelo Anthony is a high grade point average student as well. And so Anthony was being treated as a savage and Metcalf was being treated as the golden, a perfect student, the golden child, if you will.
But let's be honest. Isn't that what the pro-blacks are doing, right? Just in reverse, right? Are they not trying to make it seem like the Metcalf brothers are bullies, right? They were bullying Karmelo Anthony. They were jumping him, right? This is what they're saying, that the Metcalf brothers are racist. This is type of stuff that they're saying about the Metcalf twins, right? And then they're also saying that Karmelo Anthony is an angel who, never did anything wrong. In fact, they're making up stories about how Karmelo was apparently out here saving people from drowning, right? As a kid.
Remember, 4.0 average at school. Good kid, by all accounts. This is the people who know him, not me. This is the people who know him. This is adults, students, people in the neighborhood, people at school. Good kid. Not prone to violence. In fact, he's the antithesis of that type of person. A guy who had saved another kid's life, which another thing, you know, the media ain't talking about that. They're not talking about how Karmelo has saved another little kid's life before. They won't talk about that. The media is complicit in this destruction of Karmelo's image. They are leading the charge, which they've always leaded the charge in the destruction of the black male image.
Now, where did that story come from? Right? It comes from this newspaper article that is going viral that the pro-blacks are spreading, in which you have an article about a young boy named Karmelo Anthony. Now, notice here, this is not spelled the same, right? The spelling is not the same. This is spelled with a C and 2 L's, okay? Not spelled the same way that the Texas Karmelo Anthony is spelled. But for whatever reason, the Race Hustlers found this article. Clearly, they didn't read it. And they just concluded that this young black boy had saved somebody from drowning, when if you actually read it, a white woman had saved a black child, right? Actually, that's what happened, right? That is what they were talking about, okay? It was talking about a white woman saving a black boy, not a black boy saving anybody. So again, these people, they want to complain about misinformation, while at the same time, they are the most guilty of spreading misinformation. And again, they're spreading the misinformation because this case of self-defense is so weak that they have to literally make things up in order to get people to donate and to support, right? So again, you know, I just find it to be very fascinating how the people who are boohoo, whining, and crying about misinformation are spreading the most misinformation about what's going on here, right? Furthermore, again, this narrative about great kid, never had a history of violence at all, except if you actually watch the news, you can see that people who knew Karmelo Anthony knew him for fighting, and he had an incident that happened at school that involved a physical altercation.
And prosecutors revealed today that Karmelo Anthony was involved in an assault-type altercation at his school on February 4th that was handled internally by the school district. Other than that, he has an unblemished record, which is probably one of the reasons why the judge agreed to lower his bond.
Students shocked about what happened, that one of their classmates could be charged with such a serious offense. One girl that we spoke with knew Anthony pretty well, that she says, and told us this.
I'm in shock because it's like, I wouldn't expect that from him. I only know him fighting and stuff, like, you know, but to take someone's life is just like a different level.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that narrative that's being put out there that Karmelo is an angel who never did anything wrong, 4.0 student, never been violent, not known for the exact opposite, right? I mean, they were saying that Karmelo is a football star. He got 2 jobs, active in church. I mean, they are basically deifying Karmelo at this point, because it's almost like, well, how is all these things possible, right? How is it possible to be doing all these things at one time, right? So again, my point is that all of this stuff is falling apart, right? It was 4.0, now it's like 3.7. I think I heard 3.5 at one point, right? So even the whole 4.0 GPA thing, that's falling apart, right? This idea where he's, you know, never been involved in anything, never been violent, like that's falling apart. A lot of the narrative is just falling apart, right? But the more the narrative falls apart, the more lies that continue to get spewed, right, in order to raise money, not because these people believe this is self-defense. No, they're literally doing it for racial reasons. That's it. And that's the most screwed up part about this.
Yes. One of the things, Roland, that we need to point out in this situation is that most of the people raised their consciousness because of what Hunter Metcalf said in the local media, where he literally admitted over the weekend, days after, the same day, I believe it was the next day, where he stated that his brother was told by Karmelo to not touch him, and literally admitted that he did it anyway.
Well, yeah, because Karmelo technically said, touch me and see what happens, right? He didn't say, don't touch me. He said, touch me and see what happens, which that's why a lot of lawyers are saying that that could be provocation. Okay, now I don't know for sure because it's kind of like street slang in the sense that it like effectively it is a warning. But in actual plain English, it sounds like he's telling Austin to touch him, even though he's really not. But one thing I do want to mention about the whole touch me and see what happens thing, there's a lot of black people, pro-blacks, that keep talking about, well, when we grew up, we were taught you don't put your hands on nobody, right? And it's like, yeah, that's true. That is what we were taught growing up. But that doesn't mean that if somebody puts their hands on you, that gives you a license to kill them, right? That's not what it means, right? And again, that whole response, that reflexive, well, he should have kept his hands to himself, right? Like that is why there's so much violence in the black community, right? When you have that type of mentality where you really believe that somebody doing something as simple as putting their hands on you is a license to kill them. Okay. If you bump into somebody in public on accident, is that a license for them to stab you in the chest? No, it's not. Right. Okay. So, yes, we can all agree that people generally should keep their hands to themselves. Yes. However, again, when you talk about children and, schoolyard fights or whatever, that's not a license to kill somebody. Nobody wants to live in a world where you can kill somebody over a push, which is the precedent that would be set if Karmelo actually is found to have acted in self-defense, right? That this was actual self-defense. If he is proven not guilty, that is the precedent that it would set. Okay, I don't think a lot of people really understand that. I know the pro-blacks don't understand it. To me, one of the biggest IQ tests when it comes to this story is how people respond, right? And then the people claiming that, oh, well, if Rittenhouse could get off, then why not Karmelo Anthony? It's like, okay, you don't understand what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse. You did not watch the video. You don't know the story. You're just talking, right? You're just talking, and you don't know what you're talking about, right? That is a vast majority of a lot of these people, to be honest with you. But furthermore, notice how he's not going with the jumping narrative, okay? So notice how he's not telling the story that some of these race hustlers are telling, which is that Karmelo was jumped, right? He's basically telling a story similar, the same story that the witnesses told the police, okay? So that is something to keep in mind here.
And so no one did that interview for Hunter McLaughlin. He did it himself. And so this hate, this race, this bigotry wasn't introduced by us, right? It was introduced by them, right? And I'm gonna say this, Roland. I don't know if you even remember this because I was on the panel for the DPD police chief, and I believe I had this guy coming after me, and I used this quote, and I said it on your show, and it was quoted in other publications, even the New York Times. We will never ask the oppressor for permission to liberate our people. I don't know if you remember me.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I remember.
Show. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I remember.
We will never ask that. And I will say that 10 years later. Don't get mad when you come after ours and then we respond and support ours, right? And so I'm not here to apologize or basically give an excuse onto why we are supporting Karmelo Anthony. We are supporting him because if you can support your white baby, we can support our black kid. Right?
There you go. There you have it. He just told you. He just said it. He just said it. I ain't gonna say it was plain English, broken English, right? He just said, we're supporting Karmelo Anthony because he's black. And because white people, they were supporting Austin Metcalf. They were upset. We saw this as an opportunity because white people were upset. So now we're going to support Karmelo because he's black. He didn't say we're supporting Karmelo because we believe he's innocent. He didn't say we're supporting Karmelo because we believe he acted in self-defense or that he was defending himself. I don't know why the family has this dude speaking on their behalf, but he is doing an absolutely terrible job. He's doing a great job at race hustling. He's doing a great job at raising money. But in regards to actually defending Karmelo, he's doing a terrible job. But that's not what his job is, right? He doesn't care about this case. What he cares about is how much money he can raise so that, again, he can get his slice of the pie and move on to the next situation. Okay? Because if you really believe that Karmelo is innocent, then you should say that we're defending him because he's innocent. We're defending him because it's the right thing to do. Not we're defending him because we don't like the fact that white people are defending Austin Metcalf, so therefore we're going to defend Karmelo because he's black. That has nothing to do with right and wrong. That has everything to do with, well, this is a race hustle. This is a race thing. But again, these are the same people pointing the finger at everybody else. Well, you're making it a race thing, but you just admitted that you're defending Karmelo Anthony because of race. Not because you think he's innocent. Not because you think he acted in self-defense. Because of race.
Right. And so these laws are not just created for some, they're created for all. Right. And so just like he should have his right to be able to claim self-defense. And what I want them to understand is Karmelo didn't come out days later and claim self-defense. He claimed self-defense the moments the police touched him, the moments the police even arrested him and detained him. He didn't come days later. He has always. And it's in the affidavit.
You know, it's also in the affidavit, the fact that Karmelo questioned whether or not he acted in self-defense, right? Is that self-defense, right? Can that be self-defense? He literally asked that question as the police were walking him to the car. So if he has to ask the question of if it's self-defense, then that means that it probably wasn't self-defense. But who knows, right? I'm just saying that if you actually listen to these people talk, they're telling you everything, right? This dude is straight up telling you that, yeah, I mean, this is about race because, again, they can raise money off of this, and they see this for what it is. It's a money-making opportunity, okay? They're not doing it because they believe he's innocent. If you believe that he's innocent, if you believe this is self-defense, that is the first thing that should have came out of this man's mouth. In fact, he should be making the case for self-defense. Notice how they're not giving out any details about what happened. They're not getting any real details because I don't think they know if they got a defense at this point. They're trying to drag this out and make these people believe that this is a strong case of self-defense so that they can raise as much money as possible. And that's clearly what's happening here, right? We can see it play out right in front of our faces. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.